Now I'd like to open the meeting to the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Chardell from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Oh, good evening. I would like to express my gratitude for a physical healing concerning my shoulder. Many weeks ago, I called my practitioner for help with pain in my shoulder, severe enough to waken me at night and cause me to adjust how I got out of bed. The practitioner has been praying with me about human mind versus the spiritual thinking and letting go of fear. The pain is gone, and I am most grateful. Thank you also who made this beautiful service possible tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy.
I would first like to give gratitude tonight for all the readers at this church. It is a wonderful blessing that we have so many that take part in the reading, and I know that each one is handling a lot of resistance each time they read. I know this because each and every reading brings out more spiritual meaning in the Bible and Mrs. Eddy's writings than I receive in my own study. So it certainly wouldn't happen if the resistance to truth wasn't handled. Secondly, I am grateful to be in this church and to be able to see behind the scenes for a good portion of what goes on. It's very inspiring how many people tirelessly work to make sure the mission of this church carries on. So many different needs are being met all the time, and my role in the scheduling committee is largely just writing down the names of those who volunteer on their own ahead of time. When I needed the church, it was here waiting for me. And I now understand that this was possible because of how God works to move everyone to fill the roles that He opened up for them. I often think about all those out there right now that need this church as much as I did. And because of how God directs everyone in this church, I know it will be here for all of them. I'm so grateful for every single day that God finds a use for me here. What a blessing it is to be a member of this church. Thank you.
Thank you. Lil.
I'm very grateful for God always caring for us, and that is also in mechanical ways. One day my computer printer started jamming every time I went to use it. So I took it to Staples, and they said they don't repair due to the expense of it. They advised my buying a new one. I decided not to do that, so I just took it home. I got the thought when I got home to plug it in and try it. It worked fine and has ever since. I learned since that moving and carrying it must have reset a signal. But the result was no repair and no replacement. I just know that it was all God's direction. He was right in the middle, and I'm just so grateful that He works in so many wonderful ways. And thank you for those wonderful readings.
Thank you. Jim from Arizona, go ahead.
Thank you for the wonderful readings tonight. I would like to express my gratitude for everyone that has given some great support to our newsletter. Today, I was able to mail in my next newsletter complete, four pages, and I'm very, very grateful for this. Thank you.
And thank you, Jim, for everything you do as well. It's much appreciated and very healing for those that read it. Thank you. Linda from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you, everybody, for the beautiful readings, hymns, and music. I'm very grateful for all the ways that God cares for us, down to the details in our lives. In our neighborhood, the electric company is in the process of rerouting our electric wires and putting in new poles. At this one point, they needed to access our driveway which required us to be home during that time at a particular part of the process. We were given a wide range of possibilities of days because there were so many pieces that needed to come together. It presented a challenge to our work schedules, and it could not be planned ahead of time because of each piece was unpredictable in how it would come together. Before every day starts, I take time to get my thought in line with God and to put my day in His hands, as we are taught here, prepare for the day, while reading the lesson and different prayers. One morning, my husband was scheduled to go in for a very early meeting. In the process of preparing to go in on the train, he stopped and decided that he was going to call in for his meeting and go in later. 1 hour later into the meeting, the trucks unexpectedly rolled up, which allowed my husband time to make arrangements to work from home. During this time, he also got the thought to ask the foreman to double-check the location of our sewer line before digging, something that had supposedly been done already. The foreman consented and called the township, and within an hour they discovered that right where they were going to drill about 6 feet with augers was the sewer line. We were all protected by this angel message. Thank you, Plainfield, for all you do to make this church move forward and bless everyone.
Thank you. Gary.
I'm so grateful that I've learned, or am learning, that we can always know whatever it is that we need to know to heal things, or rather to have things healed by God. I was thinking of an experience I had, it was a little while ago, but I woke one morning with a congestion in my sinus and a sore throat, and was very uncomfortable. And my first reaction was, bummer, I've got a lot of work to do today. But then I thought, no, this is just trying to keep me from doing the work that I have to do for God. I'm not going to accept it. And I was determined not to let it keep me doing what I needed to do for God that day. So I prayed to God, and I asked Him just to show me what it was that I needed to know. And I kept my thought wide open to Him. Well, shortly after that, a practitioner in this church called me and informed me that I had done something recently that was not right. And at first I was stunned to think that I had done what that practitioner said I had done, or caused someone to be hurt by what I had done. Because I certainly didn't think at the time that it was wrong, but I accepted it, and I thought about it. And then I realized how it could and was wrong at the time. And I thought, well, I'm going to make sure I learn a lesson from this. And with that change in my thinking, the soreness in my throat and the congestion in my sinus started to dissipate. And the healing was very quick. And I was able to do everything I needed to do that day without any discomfort at all. God showed me what I needed to know and what I needed to learn a lesson about. I'm very grateful for that experience. I'm grateful for the practitioner who had the courage to tell me what I had done wrong, because I'm sure it wasn't easy for that person, that practitioner, to tell me. And I'm grateful for Mary Bakeretti for giving us this science, this wonderful way to live as God intended for us. I'm so grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you. This is Bruce. I'm grateful for a blessing that I received recently. And before I get into that, I want to say how thankful I am for those wonderful readings on joy that we listened to tonight. You know something? At one time, joy was one of those things that I had a relatively low value on, and if something came along and took my joy, I was so quick to say, that's okay, I don't need it anyway. But not so. Joy is part of our inherent being. We're God's image and likeness, and there's cause for rejoicing, definitely. And joy is a huge thing. It's very important. And I'm learning that lesson more and more each day. Earlier, I had this very anxious sense come over me, like, how am I going to get these things done? It looked like a lot of deadlines were coming up. And I was just not feeling too good about it. And then I remembered something that a student in our Sunday school shared with us once, where this boy said, I'm thankful that for everything that's right to be done, God provides the time and the opportunity to do it. Simple as that. And I'm thinking like, my gosh, if this Sunday school student can say that, how about me? So I took it and went on from there. And then I went home and opened up our website on my computer. And you know, there's this article on our carousel that's really fantastic. It's called Letter on Poise by Edward Kimball. And I read through that, and it just helped me immensely. And one of the statements in that article, it says, we have a fundamental ability to do everything that it is right to do. Whoa, how about that? If that's not a treatment, I don't know what is. But that really opened my eyes and gave me a lot of joy as well. And there was one other sentence from this article that said, by opening up your thought and accomplishing a state of receptivity, you'll be surprised to find how much will come to you as a sort of revelation. A state of receptivity. It reminded me of a time years ago when a teacher in this church gave us a very simple treatment where she said, say to yourself, I am receptive to God's goodness. And with that, I was happy and joyous again. The sense of anxiety disappeared altogether. And I went ahead with the rest of my day doing whatever was important for me to do, given to me by God, and rejoicing in doing it. And I'm very grateful for that wonderful healing and that learning experience for me. Carol.
I had a different learning experience about joy when I first came here. I learned that joy is only joy when it's based on God. And for me, it wasn't always. For me, it was perhaps a cover-up, just laughing or not dealing with things. But learning here to deal with things as they come up, put them in God's hands, pray about them, get the lesson, and go on. And then you feel the joy, the real honest joy. I am so grateful to have learned that lesson and still learning it, I'm sure. It's something to just keep in mind all the time. Am I basing everything on God? And is it a real sincere sense of joy? Or is it covering something? And let's hope I'm not covering anything anymore. I'm just very, very grateful to be aware of these things and to know what to watch out for and to keep on the right path. And very grateful for practitioner help that I've had over the years, and very, very grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig.
Thank you for those readings and the testimonies. And I thank God for our lesson sermons that really feel like I'm back in school and seem like they know all of us and tell us the things that we need to know week after week, just to feel like, and to progress us in our understanding and ability to do good. things were going so good with me that for a moment I was concerned. There's a human belief that things are going to go so good and then they're going to crash. And I said, no. Well, what's the secret? And I realized on the way to work, the secret is just keep praying, stay close to God, and keep doing right. And there's only good that will happen and come. And before I got that from here, but it goes along with humility and with all the good things happening. It just had to realize that it was God doing them, and I needed to stay close and just to be humble, and with that I could have joy, because it's right for us all to be happy and not to have any bad outcomes. A statement I like, and from the Bible, it says, "Joy is no longer a trembler, nor is hope a cheat." And in Christian Science, in this church, that is the truth. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Sir Dede, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm grateful to have learned through Christian Science that there is no good that I can do on my own, and that it's God who works through me and everyone to do all good. This week I participated in a project at work that required great physical ability as well as understanding of specific concepts to ensure accuracy. As I've learned to do here, I began with declaring that God is my mind, and I work with the truth from the Bible. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I did this for myself and the whole team, and as I met each challenge, I continued to ask God to help me through, even when I was tempted to give up. He did give me all the help that I needed, and to our supervisor's surprise, we finished the project an hour ahead of schedule. I'm so grateful to have learned to hold to the truth no matter what temptations come, and to know that God's power makes all good possible. Thank you so much for tonight's readings and for all the testimonies.
Thank you. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, tonight I'd like to give gratitude for the teaching that our healings take place in our thought, and that this gives each one of us the dominion to be able to handle all the errors that come. I also love the instruction that even if you understand a very simple truth, you can use that, and that in itself is bigger than the error that appears to be troubling. I was thinking of the statement from Mrs. Eddy's work, Science and Health, page 494. The beginning part of it says, divine love always has met and always will meet every human need. But the latter part, which I often or used to not look at much, is in our lesson this week, talks about since to all mankind, and in every hour, divine love supplies all good. I remember one time a thought came that was discouraging. It gave me an uneasy feeling and discouragement. And I just took that statement and worked and prayed humbly with it, that it says to all mankind, and in every hour. My emphasis was on the every hour, and using that, it gave an expectancy that if he says in every hour, then right now I could hear what I needed to hear. Shortly, I felt led to go to the kitchen. I just left and went. I was doing something, and a beautiful feeling of joy came over me. I was just happy, and that clearly within seconds, I could see how ridiculous this thought was. I could see its unreality. And I just knew then something broke. I felt free again. And, the joy remained, and that was the end of this awful feeling. I'm so grateful for this because there are so many simple statements, simple truths in the Bible as well as in Mrs. Eddy's works that we can use. But I think at times I used to just take them for granted or didn't pay much attention to them. But there are so many if we think about them. So it's really wonderful to know that these simple statements, one, in every hour, I just dwelt on it, and the answer came. And it's the same truth so everywhere in our hymns to bless everyone. Everyone has access to it. On the website, there's so many articles with such statements as well. I just wanted to share that because we really lack nothing. God has given us so much through these tireless workers, the early workers, Mrs. Eddy herself, the apostles, all these things. And of course, our own examples through our testimonies. I'm so grateful to be here, grateful for the readings, the beautiful readings tonight, and for the hymns as well. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Mary.
Okay, well, I have several things to read tonight, so I'll get started. The first, I'll read a couple things from our bulletin board. The first from Pennsylvania. Various resources on the Plainfield site, as well as Unity Watches, have been so helpful in finding constructive ways to pray about the challenging U.S. primary presidential race. Also, not on the site, I found a simple idea I found helpful. Namely, not to take sides and then try to prove that side correct through one's own prayers, but rather, quote, endeavor to prove that principle good governs, end quote. And that's from Christian Science class instruction by Arthur Corey. And then from New York, a great big thanks to Jeremy for making the website smartphone friendly. It is so easy to read the pages and find things on the website, like having the Plainfield Church wherever you go. Just fantastic. And then a letter from Virginia. Dear fellow members, enclosed is my monthly contribution to help forward the very important work of this independent church. The website of this church and all of its services and activities are a rich source of active and healing truths for the world, for which I am very grateful. With love and thanks. And a testimony from Wisconsin. I would like to express my gratitude for the website. Many times over the last few years, I have visited it and found the answer for my day. A few days ago, I went to work and all of our timing schedules for the lights in our building had been deleted. Although I was able to manually override the off, I did not know how to reset the schedules and really dreaded this chore. The next morning on the website carousel was the article Business by Mary Baker Eddy. The highlighted portion was, quote, today divine mind adjusts me to my work and adjusts my work to me, end quote. Here was my answer. No problem could come to me where the answer was not already available. When I got to work, I was able to easily reset all the schedules. Because the timing unit was over 15 years old, I needed to find out its expected lifespan and, if possible, what happened. It only took 2 calls before getting the help and necessary answers. Thank all of you for your dedication to every aspect of our church, and especially thank you for the loving guidance and support I receive from a practitioner. And then another testimony, and this one's from Vermont. I have wanted to wait some time before affirming this wonderful healing, that has been unfolding over the past month. I had a bad resurgence of asthma about 9 years ago after being relatively free of it, which culminated in almost dying from suffocation, which God and a wonderfully skilled doctor prevented less than an hour away from slipping away. At that time, I was put on some powerful medication, which I have relied on for the last 9 years to keep my breathing stable, but at great personal and financial cost with a number of unpleasant side effects. I have also tried unsuccessfully several times to wean myself off this medication, with consistent failure and a couple of more scary trips to the hospital. Several physicians told me I would probably be on this medicine for the rest of my life. But I turned to a practitioner in the Plainfield Church, and I was told when I was ready to get off it that healing would be possible and there should be no human will involved. A month or so ago, I realized I needed to reorder more medication and that it would not arrive in time before running out of my current supply. So in order not to risk another crisis, I cut my already half dose by half again, with little discernible impact on my breathing. At that time, I also felt a clear, God-given longing to no longer live this way, dependent on something other than Him. It was natural and peaceful, as opposed to the tense, self-willed times characterizing my other attempts to be healed. With the upshot that I stopped taking it, but then I promptly got sick with lots of breathing problems and got into an accident and fell asleep from exhaustion. This was a real wake-up call for me. I have always been driven, and I can see what God also wanted me to be healed of was this far larger problem than simply asthma. If there were ever a time when stress would have precipitated another attack, this would have been it. But God, in His mercy, did not allow that to happen, and I continued to breathe normally and sought help from a practitioner on all of these issues, rather than simply focusing on avoiding another asthma attack. I see now that not being able to breathe has been as much a product of my congested spiritual condition as anything else. It has been a month now, and I am rejoicing that I can smell coffee again while taking more time to slowly drink a cup as well. I am taking more time to be at home with my wife. I am learning to drive without speeding and taking needless risks from always being in a hurry. And I am literally and metaphorically taking time to smell the flowers, which I have sadly missed the last 9 years. Wondrously, God never gave up wanting to bless me, even when I was too driven to even imagine that. I am grateful to be breathing so freely again, but even more so that this is a small reflection of my newfound and still developing freedom to become whole, learning to walk with and in Him, as opposed to running alone. I am grateful for the wise and tender counsel I have received from my wife and from the Plainfield Church and its practitioners, who never gave up on me during these hard years. Thanks be to God for His infinite grace. I'd like to say how grateful I am for those readings tonight, too, on joy. We are in the middle of the Lent season, and it's a time when many people are mourning over the crucifixion of Jesus. But ours, in Christian Science, ours is the risen Christ. And as the readings pointed out, there never is a time to lose our joy or to feel depressed, sad, or discouraged in any way. That's not God's plan for His people. I had heard a few times this week about the thought of discouragement, and even tonight the testimonies were a little lighter than usual. And I thought about an article found on our website I believe it was Shahida from Maryland who found it for us several years ago. And the article is called The Devil's Auction, and it's by William Rathbone. And in the article, it's very interesting. It tells a story. It says the devil is going out of business. So he was going to offer all his tools for sale, and he had quite a terrible group of them. Things such as malice and hatred, deceit, sensuality. And he put price tags on every one of them. And then over in the corner, there was this sort of small-looking tool, looked like a wedge. And that had a very, very large price tag on it. And someone asked, well, what is that? And he said, well, that is discouragement. And the person said, well, why is it so expensive? And he said, well, that's my most favorite tool. He said, very often I can't get into people's consciousness with those other tools that I have, but discouragement is one they don't even recognize belongs to me. And once I wedge myself in through discouragement, then comes everything else, and I can just get them on my side. So the man said, well, can you get everyone with discouragement? And the devil thought for a long time, and he said very quietly, he said, well, not everyone. And the man said, well, who are the ones that you can't get with discouragement? And the devil said very quietly, well, those who are really grateful. So the moral of the story is the antidote to any of these problems is our gratitude. And certainly on a Wednesday night, we should be full of gratitude toward God for all the blessings that he bestows on us. And the story continues that because of the high price of discouragement, it wasn't sold, and the devil is using it even to this day. So I'm grateful for these articles, these wonderful reminders of the truth, and that with God with us, there is nothing to feel sad about. Only good is going on, and it's only when we get sucked in to the Adam dream, the mortal mind pictures, and begin to believe it, that we lose our joy. But as tonight reading said, that our joy no man can take away from us, belongs to us because it's given by God. So grateful to be here tonight for all the testimonies, the music, the hymns, and the wonderful readings.
Thank you.